The Art Center inspires creativity and contributes to
community well-being
through equitable access to
and engagement with visual arts.
We collaborate to offer exhibitions,
learning opportunities, artist development,
and cultural events centered on
art, artists, and art enthusiasts in the greater Corvallis area.
Hi, welcome to TAC Makes a Podcast. I'm Jenny Castle, the curator at the Art Center in Corvallis, Oregon. Today I'm here with local artist Jennifer Lommers, who is showing in the Corrine Woodman Gallery starting July 30th. Her exhibition is called Of the Mind, and she's here to chat with us a little bit about her practice and her upcoming exhibition. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
To start off, can you talk a little bit about your artistic journey that's brought you to this exhibition, like mediums you've experimented with in the past and just interests that brought you into art making in general?
I've been a painter for most of my art making career, and I kind of started my art making career a little bit late, about 20 years ago. So there's a little space between when I graduated with an art degree and when I finally started making art. But when I did, I went full on into painting, which is what I trained in. And I've loved that. And I still love painting a lot. But I've found in the last several years, this need to do something broader, something slower, because I'm a very fast painter and I love painting that way. But I needed something more almost meditational, something that brought me into a different mind space. And so I started adding different materials to my work and experimenting with different materials. That was probably about 2019 when I started doing that. It feels like all those experimentations are leading to this one particular show, which is pretty amazing that I have this opportunity to do this. It feels great to finally get to share all the different ways I've been manipulating my art and trying out ideas, and being able to put it into a semi-cohesive show is great. It's a great opportunity.
It's always exciting to talk to an artist who feels like they're going through a metamorphosis and like they've learned a bunch of skills and learned what is true to them, and now they're adding it to their practice. So coming from painting, what new materials have excited you most, and why?
I've definitely gotten very excited about fiber, because about the time I started making these changes, just as something to do in my spare time, I had run into some friends in a knit circle, and I hadn't knit since I was a kid. And I just wanted an opportunity to be more sociable again and be with people that I was comfortable with. And so I started joining their knit circle and started getting into the fiber arts in that way. So that was my gateway. But I also have this passion for paper making. And I started looking at ways I could combine those things. And the paper casting of molded fibers really attracted me. And I started trying to figure out how to make that part of my practice. And so that was my biggest challenge in terms of how to make that into an artwork that made sense to me.
So as you've started experimenting with new materials, do you feel like the concepts that are driving your work have shifted? Or like, do you think that the concepts are following the materials, or do you think these new materials are allowing you to finally express concepts in a way that you've maybe failed to in the past through painting?
I think it's definitely giving me new opportunities to explore ideas more. When I was painting, it was more about making a composition that was cohesive or represented a visual thing, like a nature scene or whatever it is you're painting. So I didn't have a medium that felt right to me for doing some more mental explorations or looking into topics that were not just visual things that I see. So it's allowing me to go through probably an emotional journey for me, because a lot of it started right before the passing of my dad. And then more recently, we had to move my mom into memory care. So those 2 points on my timeline really made me want to go deeper into my art and thinking about how it was expressing who I am and where I am as a person, and also how that connects to what other people are going through, because so many people go through those same experiences.
Yeah, and I love how that connects back to the stitch circle and like sitting with friends and like having camaraderie around your art, where in photography, I feel like it's pretty an isolating practice. And I'm assuming painting is very similar. You're just alone in your studio working through an idea, but you've brought community into your practice, which seems like is like an important thing for you at this juncture.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my motivators for doing this is making those connections and hearing people's stories and just sharing those experiences, because it was so important for me as I was traveling that path. It just made sense to bring that into the art piece itself.
So let's talk a little bit about the exhibition that's coming up, Of the Mind. So can you speak specifically to kind of the core ideas behind the show, and then maybe talk a little bit about how you've utilized these new ways of making to explore that core theme?
Yeah. So Of the Mind it started with these experiences that I've had with parents who have dementia and a grandparent with Alzheimer's, and just seeing memories come and go and how they are experienced by people in those states versus the person you used to know, and how their memories might differ from mine, and it brings up these conversations within family. You start asking more questions from each other about what people remember. And like my brother and I are realizing we had very different experiences growing up, and we never really thought about that before.
No, there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack when you start comparing how you experience life with somebody who lived alongside of you, right? And so you're asking hard questions of siblings that maybe you wouldn't have asked otherwise. You just would have assumed, like, of course you felt the same way.
Yeah, it's interesting. And my brother is 6 years older than me. And, as a lot of siblings do that are a little bit further apart, you have different childhoods. And it just never occurred to me before. And he
you
saw
have different
our
parents.
Family.
Like, really?
What?
Like, you have different parents. They've matured 6 years.
They were at different stages of their life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, definitely. My sisters, I have two sisters and we're all 6 years apart. So we've all had very, very different experiences.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. So Of the Mind, you're exploring the ideas of memory and kind of the discrepancies that exist in that world, right? And so are you hoping to accomplish something specifically? Are you hoping to record like how you remember it, or are you more interested in exploring the contradictions of it all?
Well, and part of it too is realizing that I'm not necessarily the person I thought I was. Like you build up this persona of yourself, and then as you start to break it down, you realize that's not who I really see myself as, or that's not who I really thought I would become or be. And so part of it is realizing there's this other person here in the conversation that I didn't even know existed before. And so allowing myself to give them a name, to give them a personality almost, and let myself be a part of that persona when I need to be, and maybe hopefully even take it over completely at some point. I don't know. But it just made me realize that there's more to me than I thought there was. And I feel like a lot of people go through that at mid to late stages of life, that you realize that who you started as isn't necessarily who you are now or who you want to be later. And what can I do to look at myself differently or look at other people differently? So in the exhibit, I'm hoping to allow for people to explore those ideas of themselves, as well as seeing how they affected my own journey.
So you're utilizing fiber work and also video, correct?
I am. I'm doing a video piece that will be part of it. Some interactive pieces that people can move and experience them in a different way than just looking. And there's going to be kind of a window sort of into a room. There'll be something going on in that room.
Yeah, you have to come see it, right? And then, so you were talking about community earlier, and you're going to incorporate community engagement with this exhibition as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about those two events that we'll host at the Art Center and what you hope the community will get out of either of those, both of those?
Well, I'm very excited with the few people I've touched base with so far. They've been willing to put their own little touch onto my art. The largest part of the art piece of this installation is being assisted by community efforts. I want an opportunity to provide space for people to make a hexagon that will go into a quilt-shaped piece, a mixed media quilt piece. And so I have information about how to make the hexagon the right size so it can be added to the piece. But in the Stitch Circle, I want to welcome anyone who wants to add to the piece or bring their own work to work on and just allow themselves some time to stitch with other people and just talk about what they love about stitching or what type of stitching or fiber gets them excited. So you can bring your own materials and do your own thing and just share the experience, or you can come with no materials and there will be things available to make a piece to contribute to the show.
I'm glad that you're expanding outside of the gallery and bringing in that community component because it seems so important to your journey and where you're going as an artist in general. Is there anything else you want to share about the exhibition that will help people who are visiting enter it and like better understand your frame of mind I think your perspective and your experiences that led to the exhibition are really important. And it's clear that you want people to come in with their own ideas of their self and their own memories and kind of like have a relationship with the show. But is there anything about your personal story that you think would help them have that experience that you want to share?
About my personal story.
I mean, I feel like this is a very personal work. Would you agree?
It is very personal. I mean,
and it's okay to not share it. Like the work can just be the work.
No, one thing I do want to share is that someone who is very important to me in my life was my grandmother. She was probably the original stitcher that I would have learned from, even though I don't remember very well. My grandmother Hilda, and there'll be photos of her in the show, intermixed with pieces. And she came over from England in, I believe, 1908, 06, somewhere around there, as a twin. And so one of the stories that she always told us that I think about a lot is she wasn't actually a twin, but she came as a twin in order to get some discount coming from England with her mother. So everyone called her the dumb twin because she was the younger sibling to her brother. And everyone thought he was smart and she was dumb because they're supposed to be the same age. And that really, you can see how much she always told that story over and over. And you could see how that story kind of affected what she thought of herself and what she passed on to her children. And I'm sure many other things contributed, but it was such a poignant story that she would tell that related that feeling that she had of being less than someone else. And then my mom definitely had that experience throughout her life of feeling that way with an older brother. Part of this process was breaking that mentality and not letting another generation go through life thinking those thoughts. Her story is very sweet, and there'll be a little bit about that in the exhibition as well.
You mentioned a little bit about your relationship with your sibling earlier. Is this generational experience something that like you two are actively talking about and trying to connect with how you feel in the sibling dynamic?
Yeah, we aren't a very talkative family. We come from a very conservative English background of parents on the one side, on my mother's side. And so a lot of these things we never talked about in our entire lives because basically I didn't really see him much by the time I reached high school. He was working in Chicago by that point. And so it's really interesting to get to know each other again as adults with children and going through our own things and realizing the kind of relationship we would want to have with each other. And he's been absolutely fabulous as a brother to go through this later stage in life, reacquainting selves. So it's been really fun to get to know him again and to realize how much we care about each other.
The generational parallels are fascinating, and I hope you keep exploring it. Family dynamics in general are so complicated, and it seems like you found a way to leave it open to contradiction, but still dive really deeply into a personal experience, which is all we can try to do with art, right?
Yeah.
Leave the door open a little bit and see what comes out. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for spending time with me today and chatting about your work. I'm really looking forward to installing it. So I'll remind everyone that Of the Mind will be on view in the Corrine Woodman Gallery, July 30th through August 28th. And we're going to hold a reception on Thursday, August 15th from 4 to 7 during the Corvallis Art Walk. And Jennifer will be there participating in a stitch circle that evening that you're welcome to come in and do some skill sharing with her that night. Jennifer, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to TAC Makes. This is a new creative project at the Arts Center, and I hope you enjoy our learning curve as much as we do. You can find more episodes on YouTube and Spotify and on our website, theartscenter.net. That's arts with an S.